7 o'clock, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, it is a Monday, and it's 7 o'clock in the city of Kalamazoo, so I know at least those of us here know what that means. So nice to see people who've come to join us here in the chambers and to see all my colleagues again here. The first thing is to call this meeting to order, so I'm officially calling the Kalamazoo City Commission business meeting to order for Monday, November 18th, 2024. And our first order of business is roll call. Clerk Borley.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Pradle.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson. Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. May I have a motion to excuse Commissioner Wilson from tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Pradle.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Hoffman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Well, we are blessed this evening for our opening ceremony to have Bishop Daniel Cunningham here with us. And shortly he will be coming up to provide an invocation. And when he does come up, I'm going to ask those of us here in the chambers to stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Bishop Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. It's always an honor to be in this place and to honor this great group of people. Let's go before the Lord. Father, we thank you for the opportunity and this chamber for us to come together to be guided by your principles. I pray for your wisdom and sensitivity upon this group of leaders for the proper direction of our neighborhood, communities, and city. Let us walk in the courage to discern and react against political influences that may not benefit our congregation, our people, our community. And Father, I speak right now that we walk together as one nation, one community, one city. Even if it's not the most popular decision, I pray that we make the right decision that's based on ethic and moral and biblical principles in our community. I speak equality, equity, and justice for all. And I speak right now that you pour out your blessings upon each of the commissioners and their family. In Yeshua's name, in Jesus' name, amen.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Bishop Cunningham. We appreciate you. Well, we have some special guests here in the audience, and I think we also have some folks in the city that are going to come out, but we've got folks here from Bike Friendly Kalamazoo for an award presentation. Please come forward.
Introduce us. Hello, greetings, Mayor Anderson, City Commission, and City Manager Ritzema. I'm here with Paul Selden and Doc Rakoff, and I'm Tom Holm. And years ago, I worked at the Kalamazoo County Road Commission as the engineer, and back then we were focused on context-sensitive design, and then that rolled into complete streets. So then Paul Selden came in, and he was advocating for bicycling. So Paul started Bike Friendly Kalamazoo. He wanted to encourage more people to ride a bicycle. So I want to turn it to Paul Selden to talk about the City of Kalamazoo's bike rodeo.
Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Hess, thank you very much for this opportunity. On behalf of its board of directors, Bike Friendly Kalamazoo is going to present one of its 2024 Civic Leadership Awards to the Kalamazoo City Parks Department. In recognition, as our award reads, of its noteworthy, multifaceted work to help make our greater community even more bicycle friendly. And so on behalf of the board, I'm very pleased to ask the representatives, not just from the parks, but from another department who's been very instrumental in the reason for our awarding this award, which is in the presentation for the past 2 years running of a very popular bicycle rodeo during Kalamazoo Area Bike Week. In fact, it's one of the highlights right in the middle of the week, and you should see all the kids who come down. And I'll have to say and hand it to the Department of Parks and Recreation that they have made this event happen after a very long period, part of which was during COVID, but almost right after everybody came out of their shells, they were on the spot, and we're hoping that they will continue this tradition for as long as it makes sense to the Parks Department. So thank you very much.
Take a picture right over here.
Oh, one more. Welcome to the weddings.
Thank you. Still by the mic, I just want everybody in the city to recognize what this department has done and all the children they've helped over the years with this event. So thank you again, Patrick. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you to the representatives of Bike Friendly Kalamazoo, all your efforts year-round, but also recognizing the important partnership we have. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you being here. We are now down to the adoption of the formal agenda. Commissioners, are there any items that are on the consent agenda that you would like to have moved to the regular agenda? All right, seeing none, the agenda stands as it is. Next is communications. Manager Ritzman.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Now is the opportunity for public comments for this meeting. Just a reminder, it's not an opportunity for dialogue, but it's a time for anyone who is here in the chambers to share comments on any item. You'll have 4 minutes. Please come up to the podium. Please state your name and whether you live in the city of Kalamazoo.
Larry Newmeyer, and I live in the city of Kalamazoo. Do you want my address?
No, you don't have to share that.
Several months ago, many of us from the West Main neighborhood were invited to a meeting regarding a play street or a closing of Peak Street, which is at the base of Valley and the South Street Hills in our neighborhood. When we were there, I hate to say it, but the traffic engineer insulted us, and it was in a profound and fundamental way. We have anywhere from 5 to 40 years of experience and observation regarding the safety of what was being done, and the traffic engineer said that it didn't matter because it didn't involve police reports. Even though we had an enormous amount of information about vehicles having difficulty ascending those hills in the winter when they're iced and snowed, and sliding down those hills, and so on and so forth. That was the first blow which we received, and it really was totally unfounded, because when you have 3 people who live on those streets right there, all saying basically the same thing over many years, it's something which the city needs to take account of, and the traffic engineer said that what we had to say did not matter. The second thing we learned was, about 2 hours later, that the meeting itself did not matter because Ms. Slaby, who hosted it, announced at that time that the final decision to close Peak Street permanently had been made a year earlier. The invitation which we received implied that our concerns would be taken seriously. I don't see how you can take concerns seriously if you've already irrevocably decided the matter without regard to those concerns. The situation is dangerous, partly because about once a month during the peak or deep months of the winter, the slide downs occur every month, and partly because there's that barricade there now. Somebody's going to crash into it eventually and be seriously injured. There's a stop sign now at the top of the Valley Hill, and that is causing a problem, or will cause a problem, because when the car gets up to the top of it and has fought its way through snow and ice, it may not have the momentum to get through there. There are two other stop signs up there for the intersecting streets, so there's no need for that one. And that causes a hazard of further slide downs, and someone's going to get seriously hurt. The other problem with that barricade is that Peak Street is the street which people can use to escape from the area when they can't get up those hills. It's blocked off now, which means that people who can't get up the hill are trapped. Just as important, if there's an ambulance that has to come into the neighborhood to pick up a patient, how is it going to get out? It's going to have to try to fight the ice and snow on those hills because Peak Street is closed and the person in the ambulance is going to be in danger. Sooner or later, someone is going to be seriously harmed by the closing of Peak Street during those 3 winter months. Everybody in the neighborhood, I think, agrees that it should be closed during the non-snow and ice months, but a lot of us believe that it's dangerous, and I think the things we've experienced and seen back us up on that. But we've been ignored. Ms. Slaby has ignored it. She came up with a false excuse that, well, it was bad driving or bad vehicles. How she would know that is beyond me. And basically we have been ignored. Sooner or later, someone will be hurt. Mayor, you will be the one, expressing the city's regrets to the people who have been hurt, to their families. And your attorney will be the one who has to go over to the circuit court and say, sorry, Judge, governmental means.
Thank you.
That's not the way to govern the city of
Right.
Kalamazoo.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Gwendolyn Hooker. Hello, Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. It's an honor to be here this evening. My name is Gwendolyn Hooker, and I am wearing a couple hats today. So my first hat is going to be the Vice President of the Kalamazoo County Public Housing Commission. We would like to extend an invitation to you all to come join us on Thursday to the Sugarloaf ribbon cutting, which is going to be happening Thursday at 3 p.m. Everyone is welcome, and I will send the actual invitation to Clerk Borling so that you all can hopefully put it on your calendar and come and celebrate a long, thought out, but very well planned modular home, 10 modular homes that are going to be there for people. So that's on Thursday. Also would like to just kind of give you an update on the Tiny Houses of Hope project. When I drove by earlier, there were bike racks that were being put up. So we are nearing the conclusion of this project. Unfortunately, I am here to request or ask for people that may be listening that we need donations of appliances, 3 sets of appliances for the tiny houses. So if anyone is aware of where we could get some appliances for the tiny houses, that would be awesome. We expect that we will be inviting you all to a ribbon cutting in the next couple of weeks, hopefully by the first or the second week of December. So we are very much happy for all of your support that you all have given us for this project. It's been a labor of love, but we're almost to the finish line, guys. And I believe that is it. I don't believe that I did that in 2 minutes, but hey, I knew what I was saying, and I'm here to, I guess that's it. I will lend my time to someone else. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please. Seeing no one else, well, please come forward if you want to take advantage of this.
As fast as I can, okay? Hey, you guys, Charles Hanna. Last time that we spoke, I believe I made mention of an ordinance that is currently in place regarding, charging cellular devices. I also think I mentioned that I too had been charged with this, and today I went to court today, and it was dismissed. But a lot of others, these are people that have very little, and so a $100 fine to someone who's homeless is it's a tall order, and as I stated today, you have to be able to call 911, whether you have a phone service or not. If you have a charged phone, then you could at least do that. And I don't think I need to tell you guys or remind you how violent it is out here, unfortunately. It didn't used to be that way. I grew up in Kalamazoo and Parchment, so I remember not locking our doors, and it wasn't like this at one time. So I won't take up too much time, but I did want to tell you guys that had been dismissed, and maybe you guys aren't too busy, maybe revisit that. I know electricity's not free, but what are we gonna do? I mean, can't we extend that at least? And I will defer the rest of my time as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Shona Espinoza, and we have a housing crisis. And it doesn't matter if they want to be housed or they don't want to be housed, either or, they're human beings. And the disrespect from people in this community, the KDPS coming down there, throwing their stuff around, kicking their stuff, talking to them like they're less than human beings is extremely uncalled for. They're human beings. So it doesn't mean because they don't have a roof over their head or basic things that we have, doesn't mean that people should come down there or KDPS should go down there and be disrespectful, throw their things around. That's just being disrespectful and not caring for somebody as a human being. Some of these people, they have kids. They're disabled. They're veterans who served and made sure that we have some of the rights that we have. But you guys should say something or do something about the disrespect towards them. They serve to make sure that you guys could all sit up there and look all pretty and whatever. But it's a really slap in the face that how disrespectful people are down there towards them, even the police. That's not good. So if y'all don't care what they're doing, have a heart. Because I believe that y'all wouldn't want somebody treating y'all grandparents like that, or your mother or your kids, or your aunts or your uncles. But I'm tired of seeing that every time I go down there daily. That's not that they're down there harassing them. So just because you don't have a home doesn't make you less than a person. Just because you don't have a meal on a table doesn't make you less than a person. They're still human beings. They still have a right. They still have feelings. So even if you don't care, if you want to make sure that they're safe this winter or not, make sure they're being respected as people, because they're human beings. Because I know a lot of y'all don't respect us, but that's okay, because we're still going to come up here and do what we do, because we have a heart and we care about those that are out here on the streets. There's tons of kids, babies, infants, newborns, people that are pregnant, are vets, disabled. There are so many people out here on the street. So maybe you should come down when we're down here and see what's going on and observe the whole thing, not just make assumptions, not just going off what people say. This is real. This is extremely real. So take that in consideration. And then also remember, there's a couple of y'all up for re-election next year. And a lot of us going to be advocating to make sure that you're not being re-elected, especially if you're not doing your due diligence and making sure that people of Kalamazoo are safe. You're worried about people clapping and that's a safety issue? That's not a safety issue. People out on the street is a safety issue. They're out here being raped. They're out here being mugged. They're out here being beaten. Some are out here being killed. It's about to be winter. Many people are going to die. We care. That's why we come up here every time there is a possibility to speak, because we have a heart. If y'all have a heart, y'all be out here doing the same thing. Just remember, a few of y'all are up for re-election, and there's a few of y'all we could care less if y'all come back to this board, and so do many people in this community, especially you, Anderson. Have a heart, grow some balls, do what you're supposed to as a mayor, instead of only wanting the good things coming out of Kalamazoo. There's a lot of bad things that maybe you should step up, be a mayor, and do your job.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tina. I am from Kalamazoo, and I live in Kalamazoo. And Mr. Cooney, I want to say thank you for getting that cover off the storm drain so my street doesn't flood so bad. I've seen you handing out flyers, and I mentioned it to you, what was finally removed. Thank you. I live in Kalamazoo. I've lived here all my life. I live next to the last natural green space, Lake to Stockbridge, which is also in the low-lying floodplain area of Kalamazoo, which I have been coming here for 7 long years now, just to save this last natural green space that helps us with flooding. This green space needs to be saved from the hands of the city's destruction team. I have lived in my home for 38 years. I've also paid taxes for 38 years, with no tax breaks like your developer friends get. See, in my neighborhood, the last time you took away 12 acres in 2017, Crosstown, you made the flooding go from once every 8 to 10 years, and increased flooding now is every 2 to 3 times. It's 2 to 3 times every year now. See, this last green space, Lake to Stockbridge, has wetlands, swampy area, has lots of bats, has never been checked by, have an environmental study or anything in it. Has a lot of wildlife. It's not just that we flood in my neighborhood, but it also ruins our furnace and water heaters. And the cleanup is not easy, and it's not cheap. In the floodplain area, your storm drains flood out the streets, backs up the storm sewers into the streets and in the groundwater. And Mayor Anderson, your Hawthorne project could be built right across the street at the old DHS building, instead of destroying this last little piece of green space we have left. If you build the Hawthorne project in this green space, you will excavate more flooding for our community members and flood us out of our homes. You always say you love Kalamazoo. You only love the money train, not the residents. Rent is too high in Kalamazoo. People can't afford to live. And I know a lot of you are landlords. Families are living out on the streets. These dangerous streets, sleeping in hallways, cars, abandoned buildings, wherever they can lay their little heads. Winter is coming fast. What are you going to do to help people not freeze to death outside? You need to bring back, and also you need to bring back public call-ins. The other day, a couple of weeks ago, there was a little old couple that could barely walk because you took call-ins away. They had to try to come all the way down here to speak up about the crime in their neighborhood. Public call-ins need to come back. You have a lot of disabled people that can't walk, can't drive, seniors. Why? Do you not care what they have to say? Is this why you took away our rights to call in at a meeting? and express our concerns, our troubles, and our worries, because you don't listen or care what we say. And how are we supposed to know what you are talking about with this agenda if we can't ask you to explain it to us? And also the snow thing you got going, $150 to $250. The city yards don't even plow the sidewalks in front of the city building on Lake. Never have. My neighbor plows it. They don't plow the sidewalks in front of the woods. My neighbor snow blows it. Never have. So you're gonna senior citizens have to get out within 48 hours and try to shovel their sidewalk so they don't get a ticket? That's not fair. I mean, I know you guys are trying to get money any way you can, but don't kill senior citizens. They have to go out and shovel in the snow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Chase Claddy. I live in the city. At the end of the City Hall meeting on Tuesday, 11/12, the Commission removed Policy 10.1, which is the citizens' ability to move items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda, and referenced the fact that a group of citizens, Black, Indigenous, and trans advocates had been removing several items at the last meetings and not speaking about the item. While this in no way prolonged the meeting, according to Jim Ritzema, it was not fair and that city staff had to stay longer at the meeting. This is in contradiction to David Anderson's statement where he called the same citizens abusive for speaking multiple times about the housing crisis that we are facing and the quantity of the new supposed affordable housing and its impact on the housing crisis. This just confirms what citizens have been vocal about, that the City Commission does not care about unhoused citizens, and they will work to dissuade and use community advocates as a scapegoat to act against democracy. If this community accepts the removal of citizens' rights and abilities to be involved in the democratic process, the mayor and commission will continue to shut people out of the democratic process, specifically people who are and are advocating for homeless, impoverished, and low-income community members. The commission has already shut people out by removing citizens' ability to call in and make a public comment like Tina was saying. This is a big accessibility issue. The commission must return citizen ability to move agenda items and return the citizen's ability to call in to make public comment. Public comment is not currently accessible to the public, as not everyone has the time or ability to attend the City Hall meeting in person, especially disabled, poor, and working poor citizens. Call-in comments are necessary to include every citizen who wants to participate, just not those who can attend in person. For example, on 11/12, this commission approved 2 pilot resolutions for the Legacy Senior House Project owned by Zion Place, which is a total of 70 quote-unquote affordable units, which will be available exclusively to senior citizens, low or moderate income, with an average of all units servicing 60% AMI, while in reality only 10 units will be for low-income residents at 40% or below AMI. And the remaining 60 units will be for moderate to middle income, 60 to 80% AMI. This is to say that these projects do not even make a dent. They do not make an impact on the housing crisis we are facing locally in Kalamazoo, especially for 40% and below AMI. The city continues to boast about so many affordable housing projects, yet collectively they do not make an impact on the housing crisis, and they are always less than the bare minimum and do not keep up with the demand for attainable housing. This deficit, along with the rent being too high, is pushing us more, the community, seniors, disabled, and all of us into homelessness faster than these projects can be built. If this city commission valued equality and justice and equity, it would not have taken away the right to move agenda items. For example, there are 14 items on the consent agenda today, and 1 item on the regular agenda. That means these 14 items will be approved in one swift vote with no opportunity for citizens to speak on any of the items or ask for a discussion. Some of these items require community perspective, yet you act like it's a nuisance to have to stay longer than usual to clarify community concerns or public comments if need be. The first item on the consent agenda, approval of a contract with Santiago Services for sidewalk and snow removal. Approve this contract. In addition to the contractual sidewalk of snow removal, it will serve as A contractor to perform violation snow removal from sidewalks that were not cleared in accordance with a 48-hour timeline required by this new sidewalk clearing. How is this beneficial to the city of Kalamazoo? This will disproportionately affect poor, disabled, and black and brown people. Please take this into consideration when you're voting on these items.
Thank you. Next, please.
I would first of all like to thank each and every one of you for your time. You are all my brothers and sisters, and I would like to invite you out to our events that we hold every single week downtown at Arcadia Park, so you can come see this issue in the city for yourselves. I'm not just here as someone concerned about homelessness, but as someone who is living it. Homelessness in Kalamazoo is a crisis, one that reflects the gaps in support for our most vulnerable. Michigan Bills 4947 and 4919 help to bridge these gaps. We need more than legislation. We need bold action from the city, affordable housing, mental health services, and long-term solutions that uplift people, not just quick fixes. The homeless community is resilient and full of potential. With your support, we can transform lives and make Kalamazoo a city that leads with compassion. This isn't just about helping the homeless, it's about equity, humanity, and building a stronger community for us all. And I would like to say to any kid going through a rough time that you're not alone, and that we're all in this together, and we can only make it out as a community, and it gets better. So thank you all for your time. I remember. And Arcadia Park, I had heard that there was some plans to sell it and make condos. I urge you not to. This is where the majority of our community events are hosted. I know they're hosted all around the city, but ours personally are at Arcadia, and that's where it's at every week. And we cannot have that. That's where we connect. That's where we build community at. So I urge you not to sell Arcadia Park and create condos. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Toby Hannah Davies, and I do live in the city. First of all, I want to say that Gwendolyn Hooker asked me to correct the date she told you for the Sugarloaf ribbon cutting. To make sure you have it correct, it will be Tuesday, the 26th of November at 3 p.m., not this Thursday. And that's 10 modular homes that will be affordable for families in Schoolcraft area, I believe. For myself, I want to talk about the housing crisis also. I think people are really grieving. I mean, we have the same crisis as all the cities across the United States for a whole lot of reasons. But people are particularly grieving because we're not going to have the pods helping a lot of people that a number of us, including me, had hoped would be ready for this winter. And there are wonderful plans for the hotel that you, the city, and the county commission have made together with Portage Help. But that hotel won't be ready for this winter either. So I think it's really understandable that people are so hurt and frustrated. But I want to thank you for all that you are doing. And I think the fact that it's often on the consent agenda means that it doesn't get the attention and appreciation that it deserves. On October 21st, I wasn't able to stay for your business meeting, but if I had, I would have thanked you for what you did that night. You adopted a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes, which means a significant tax reduction for a lot of units, 40 affordable units, plus and $400,000 for the rehabilitation of those units at one location. on Kilgore. And then you adopted a long 35-year payment in lieu of taxes reduction for 18 permanent supportive housing units. And that means they would include supportive services, not only housing, but the kind of services that people need to succeed in their housing. And you had approved $700,000 to support those 18 permanent housing units. And then a third thing you did was a 50-year pilot tax reduction for 46 housing units on East Alcott, plus ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act, for $700,000 for those 46 permanent supportive housing units. You know all of this, but I think the public often doesn't know it because it's read in the consent agenda along with many other items that are frankly pretty boring. To me, these are exciting projects that you have adopted, and they weren't the only ones. You also, that same night on October 21st, approved a loan to the senior housing project on Rose, a significant loan, and you approved lead-based paint remediation for Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services to do, which is a very...
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to take advantage of the public comment period? All right, thank you to everyone who took the time and made the effort to come to our meeting and provide public comments. Next is the consent agenda. Manager Risma.
The following items have been presented for approval. First is approval of a contract with Santiago Services for the 2024-2025 sidewalk snow and ice clearing services in the amount of $100,000. Next is the approval of a contract with Jones Chemical Incorporated for the purchase of liquid chlorine cylinders for water treatment in the total amount of $173,375. Next is the approval of a one-year contract with Caris LLC for the purchase of sodium hexametaphosphate in the amount of $184,140. Next is the approval of a one-year contract with Elhorn Engineering Company for the purchase of liquid phosphate for water treatment in the amount of $192,265.92. Next is the approval of a two-year contract extension with Maynard Casterson PC for outside auditing services in the amount of $200,600. Next is the approval of a one-year contract with Alexander Chemical Corporation for the purchase of fluorosilicic acid for water treatment in the amount of $214,500. Next is the approval of a sole source contract with D3W Industries for odor control chemicals for biosolids processing in the amount of $498,150. Next is the adoption of a resolution setting a public hearing on December 16, 2024 to consider the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget for the City of Kalamazoo. Next is the approval of a resolution authorizing the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development or their designee to represent the City of Kalamazoo in small claims court. Next is the approval of the allocation of one full-time equivalent staff position in the Management Services Department for the new position of Grants Compliance Specialist. Next is the adoption of the updates to the Kalamazoo Water System Utility Financial Policy regarding reserve requirements. Next is the approval of a time extension to the Local Initiative Support Corporation 2023 Rental Rehabilitation Program funded by Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery, ARPA funds. Next is the approval of an agreement with the Kalamazoo Youth Development Network for a grant of ARPA funds in the amount of $500,000 to provide youth programming for the summer of 2025. Next is, and finally, the acceptance of grants totaling $304,000 from the Michigan Department of Transportation for the 2026 Local Bridge Program to fund preventative maintenance of the bridges on Elcott Street, Dutton, Portage, and Vine Street over the Portage Creek.
Thank you very much, Manager Ritzma. So, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 14 and authorize the city manager to sign all related documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Pradel. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Commissioners. The consent agenda items are passed. Manager Ritzman.
Regular agenda, item H1, first reading of an ordinance to amend certain sections of Chapter 38 of the Kalamazoo City Code to change the rates charged for drinking water.
Thank you, Manager Ritzman. Is there a staff report on this item?
Yeah, our Director of Public Services, James Baker, will be giving a brief presentation, and just a reminder that our last committee of the whole meeting last week was on this topic, so he'll be providing a abbreviated version of that presentation here tonight.
Welcome, Director Baker. And just a quick reminder here, we had a very extensive presentation on this at our Committee of Whole. And how would somebody access that if they wanted to?
They can go to PMN for the video coverage of that, or on our city page.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Director Baker.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, and thank you for the introduction, City Manager. Welcome, everybody, and thank you, City Commission, for taking the time to engage on this topic here tonight. As we talked about, this is just an abbreviated presentation, very similar to the one we provided last week. It just lacks some of the details that we went into on some of the topics. We did want to highlight some of the projects for next year, talk about some highlights in water affordability, and then kind of walk through those utility rate recommendations. One of the things that we always like to do when we talk about the water and wastewater systems is really provide some background and depth in terms of the area of coverage and who we serve as a system. From a drinking water system, we serve, and you can see by this map here in front of you, pretty much everything from the county line on the west side at Oshimo in Texas Township, all the way east and all the way north into Richland. We're a large system. We're the largest all-groundwater system in the state of Michigan, and we're the 5th largest overall water utility. In terms of customer base, we've got about 190,000 customers on the water system. Wastewater is similar, but a little different. If you look at the map, it's aligned a little bit different. There's broader areas of our system that provide drinking water, and then one thing that's unique with wastewater is that we provide wholesale services to other communities. So you'll see some other communities highlighted on this wastewater map that aren't on the water map. And the reason for that is there is only one wastewater treatment plant in the entire county. And we serve not only all of Kalamazoo County, we also serve portions of Van Buren County, and we serve portions of Berry County. In total, we have about 230,000 customers of the wastewater system. There's a lot of wastewater that is treated every day at this treatment plant. This is a plant that was designed and dedicated specifically to treat the kind of waste we have here in Kalamazoo. And one thing we wanted to highlight is that we receive over 27 million gallons a day per day for treatment. And so if you do the math on that, that's more than 1 million gallons per hour that happens every single day. As we look out to 2025 and talk about projects, our projects carry kind of some continuous themes that we're going to continue to focus on in the next year and for several more years here into the future. We're talking about lead service line replacements, cast iron water main replacements, station treatment process improvements. We've done a lot of work in odor control at the wastewater treatment plant. We've got a lot of work that's going to continue in that topic area. We've been making upgrades and improvements on our interceptors. And we've also got a pretty big topic, which is our sustainable biosolids alternative. That's going to be something that we're going to talk about here in the future. In terms of lead service line replacement, we've crossed a big milestone here as a community. On September 19th, over in the Stewart neighborhood, we replaced our 5,000th lead service line replacement. Since the City Commission really started to focus on accelerated replacement in 2017. So these are some very big numbers that have happened very quickly, thanks a lot to a lot of great dedication and support. In terms of areas that we've completed so far, Eastwood, East Side, Parchment, North Side, Fairmount, West Douglas, Stewart, and West Side are complete, or we're transitioning out of those areas. We are still working in North Side. We're on North Street, west of Westnedge right now, so you'll be seeing work in that area. Next year, we're going to start 1,300 lead service line replacements in Edison, and we kicked off the project there. We also have received funding for another 1,300 replacements in Edison. So you start to add those numbers together, by the end of 2027, we'll have 7,600 lead service lines completed at that time. And we're working towards a goal of 10,000 here in Kalamazoo. Water main replacement is a very important topic for us. We talked about some projects. We had a committee of the whole presentation today by your traffic engineer, Mr. Dennis Randolph. We talked about some traffic calming work in Kalamazoo. We also talked about some construction impacts of some projects in Kalamazoo. I want to make sure we continue to remind everybody that most all of our major projects this year, including Whites Road, Westnedge, Ransom, these are big infrastructure projects, and that construction that you see out there, including that construction that you see out there on Westnedge, is water main replacement. So this is work that we're doing to renew that infrastructure. Whites Road now complete. We'll not have to go back from a water main perspective for many, many years to come. And so we're kind of building our network, rebuilding our network, if you will. If you look at water main in the system, 839 miles of pipe in the system, 300 miles of pipe in the city of Kalamazoo. Of the 300 miles of pipe in the city of Kalamazoo, 100 miles of that is either 100 years old or is going to be 100 years old in 2037. So when we look at that, we look at the work we're doing on major streets, we want to make sure that we're being proactive and we're using an asset management plan approach so that when we renew a street, we've got brand new infrastructure underneath, and that we can start to reduce this very large number of 120 water main breaks that we have on average per year, which real life story, if you go just a little bit further down on Westnedge at Parker, you see that we've got 2 lanes closed there. That's not because we felt that there was a deficit of construction work in Kalamazoo. That's because there was a water main break on that portion of Westnedge. So those are the type of impacts that are very frustrating, not only to drivers, but to the folks that live right there, because they're now in a boil water advisory. So as we replace streets, as we do the construction, we want to make sure that we're renewing all the infrastructure as well. A very large project that we've spent a lot of resources and staff time on, and we're very successful here with the state. $110 million to address emerging contaminants in PFAS and lead, station consolidation and treatment project to consolidate stations 5 and station 14, provide iron, manganese, and PFAS treatment to those stations. Station 5 was built in 1914, it's 110 years old, continuous in operation, has a known PFAS plume near it. Again, all Kalamazoo PFAS is at or below Michigan standards, so we're well within the limit for that. But as we look to the future and we look to maximize the use of our system as a groundwater system, we've got to prepare and plan some of these treatment technologies. We also have a plan to extend public water supply in Richland Township, where the production plated plastic site impacted some members of the community that are on residential well. And I talked earlier about that lead service line replacement in Edison. This is where the funding comes from in 2026. So these projects all together, $110 million. This was competitive across the state of Michigan, over 1,300 water systems in the state. We placed number 2 in the state, and so this comes with it 40-year financing at 2%, which is a lot better than what we can get right now on our own. and an additional $20 million grant. Switching gears here over to wastewater, a lot of great work that has been done on odor control, a lot of work that's going to continue into the future. Some of this work you saw on your consent agenda tonight, almost $500,000 in DW3 chemicals to help with that odor control process. Earlier, and we've got a short film that we made with Mr. Neil Conway, talks about some of the work that we've been doing at the treatment plant. We just completed the GPI GPI pipeline reroute, all brand new pipeline to transmit and transport the waste stream from graphic packaging to the Kalamazoo Water Reclamation Plant. That pipe is now free from waterfalls, internal waterfalls in the pipe, all sealed manholes, smooth flow process, and doesn't introduce any ability for those emissions to escape into the environment. So that's online. We just completed our annual maintenance of our carbon scrubber units, where we replaced the carbon media in all the carbon scrubber units at a wastewater plant. That's $600,000 done every year. Just a lot of great work that we continue to do at the wastewater treatment plant to stay focused on odors. Switching gears into a lot of things focused on water affordability, and a lot of things that we went into some real depth last time on this. We're just going to kind of skim the surface this time around. We've had done water shutoffs from March of 2020 through December of 2023, so that was quite a long period. We resumed that practice just recently in January of 2024. What we've learned from the community is that we had about 2,800 families in Kalamazoo that were receiving the late notice, the past due notice, and a shutoff notice, but were paying their bills. And if we looked at that with respect to a map and coverage area, that would cover an area that is not typical with demographics for folks experiencing unmet needs. We zoomed in a little bit further. We looked at how many folks were experiencing water shutoffs where they actually had a shutoff for a period of 1 or more days. That's a much smaller data set. That's about 300 families on that. We then zoomed in further to see are there homes that are experiencing water shutoffs for more than 1 day, and they're experiencing it many, many times throughout the year. And we had 9 families on that group there. So, what we're learning is that, we've got a good program in place. The CAA Payment Arrears Assistance Program is utilized by about 300 people in the county in our water system. We know we need more outreach. We've got plans to connect to more families to make sure that we're connecting folks to available programs. Some of the things that we're doing is we've got business cards made up with water affordability and the CAA call-in number in English and in Spanish on cards, and we're giving those cards to public safety. We're also giving those cards to our building inspectors, so that as city staff are out in the community and we engage in conversations that may or may not be related to water, that we can make those connections as well. We're also going to be working to have more in-person appointments starting next year, and we'll be advertising those when we send those out. And we're also doing some things that you might not think of, on the water bill. And we talked about the water bill, the past due bill, and the shutoff notice. Every one of those contains information on how to connect with CAA. We recognize that folks that may be dealing with some hardship for not being able to pay that bill, they know what's in that bill, and they're likely to just cast it aside. So on the outside of the envelope, we've now printed information that says help is available for utility assistance. Look inside the envelope. So again, a lot of great programs in place. If you don't think you're qualified, but you're experiencing some challenges with water affordability, please give us a call. We can set up payment planned options. We can do up to 2 payment plans per year. Please come in and do an in-person with the CAA folks. We're learning about the ability to categorically qualify for this assistance program based on whether you qualify for other assistance programs. So, for example, if you qualify for a supplemental nutrition assistance program, you can be categorically qualified in the water payment arrears program. So please reach out and we'd love to be able to help you with that. In terms of the actual rate impacts, you see, the ordinance that's in your agenda packet that's got all sorts of numbers and meter sizes and things for all different types of usage. The simple numbers to look at in terms of, routine families, folks that just live and work every day and pay a water bill. What do these impacts look like to them? We're talking about $2 a month for an average user. That's a 1-inch meter, 4,500 gallons a month, or 51.3 cubic meters per quarter. In terms of wastewater, similar numbers, about $3 a month. So one thing to note is the wastewater rates are scheduled to equalize between in-city and out-city customers by 2030. We talked about the as a system, that's a 12% system rate increase. The city rate is lower, but it's going up at a higher rate than the township, which is a little bit higher, but going up at a lower rate because those rates are going to come together in 2030. All told, both of that water and wastewater combined, still about $5 a month. When we look at that in comparison to other communities, you see that we were right between Wyoming and Muskegon for the lowest combined water and wastewater rates in the state of Michigan. To after this rate increase, and once the dust settles, we'll be kind of just ahead of Muskegon. So we'll have two communities behind us. We wanted to take a look back at that. We do recognize and understand that we've been going for several years with rate increases as we work through this incredible amount of infrastructure investment. And so we looked back for some perspective, and we see that in 2017, we were essentially in the same overall position. We were behind Muskegon and Wyoming, and after a rate increase, we were in front of Muskegon and Wyoming. So in terms of overall position with respect to our peer communities across the state of Michigan, we are pretty typical for a water and wastewater system, and we continue to be among the lowest in the state. Again, overall, system rate increase, 5% water, 12% wastewater, and we would anticipate similar recommendations in 26 and beyond. We did want to highlight the amount of money that is coming in to Kalamazoo. So over $43 million that is not part of the rate impact. So these are direct federal or state grants or loan programs that have competitively been brought to Kalamazoo. So that's a testament to our great team in public services, a great team in management services who have worked together diligently to really bring these dollars home. We talked about the ability for the community to go see some of these other presentations that we've been giving. We talked last time about a very deep dive presentation that we gave to a wastewater stakeholder group, about a 2-hour lecture on wastewater and all the factors that go into wastewater rates. That's a little bit in the weeds for the commission. So those that are interested can head over to the Public Media Network and take a look at that. The Utility Policy Committee had some in-depth conversations on water rates, and as well as the capital improvement program, and provided us with some recommendation there. That program is available on Public Media Network. And of course, our Committee of the Whole session that we had back on the 12th is also available on the Public Media Network. So just keeping up with the planned activities, the next steps would be the formal action is requested on Monday, December 2nd. On that date, you'll have the final reading of the water ordinance, and then you'll have a wastewater rate resolution at that time. So be happy to answer any questions or comments that commissioners may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Baker. Good to see you again. Questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Pradel.
Sure. Some of these are repeats, so I apologize, but it's helpful for those who can't tune into the Community of the Whole meetings. So Director Baker, thanks for your presentation. So one of the examples that you gave during our committee of the whole meeting that I thought was a really good example to shed some light on why some of these utility rate increases are necessary is the removal of the sludge, and how I think it was 4 or 5 years ago that was about $4 million expenditure, and today it's about a $15 million per year expenditure. So can you speak about that a little bit, but also maybe give a couple examples of some other inflationary pressures that are putting a lot of strain on communities like ours?
Yes, certainly. We'd be happy to go into that. What's unique about a water and wastewater facility in our operation is that, we're a little different from, the goods you might buy at a retail store. So, customers who may go to a retail store that buy goods and services are a little bit different than how we buy them here at the city. You saw most of the consent agenda was chemical purchases that we make direct with chemical manufacturers. That's all bid out, and we go with the lowest bid. Some of our most expensive or most expensive examples of inflationary pressures are with construction. So if we look at the cost of water main, if we go back just a few years ago, just before COVID, 2019, a good price, a low price for 8-inch water main installed and a typical, city street, say in the Oakland neighborhood, would be, in Oakwood, would be about $120 to $150 a foot. If we fast forward to today, a low price of that would be $250 a foot. So we have some tremendous cost escalation factors in construction. There's also how level of service ties into this. When we look at all the work that we've been doing in the wastewater plant on odor control, there's a lot of chemical purchases that we're making today that we weren't in the past. So while we recognize that, yes, the cost of chemicals has gone up, we're also using more chemicals. In things like carbon, isn't broadly thought of as a chemical. It's pretty inert, but it's in our chemical budget, and it's a consumable that we use throughout the treatment process. There's been changes to Michigan lead and copper rule, changes to our operational level service due to lead and to PFAS that are also driving increased costs, increased treatment, things like that. Those 2 pump stations I talked about to consolidate those facilities and provide treatment of those facilities, there's escalations in level of service. So we're going from 2 pump stations right now, 5 and 14, that pull the water out of the ground, provide limited treatment, and then send it into the system. And so that's apples and oranges from where we're going to go to. Where we're going to go to is that we pull it out of the ground, then it goes into oxidation treatment. From there it goes into physical treatment, goes into manganese removal and iron removal, and then after that it goes into advanced treatment for PFAS removal. So there's, in terms of it, the system, it's not even apples to apples. It's apples to oranges in terms of where we were and where we were going. And a lot of that is driven by the regulatory aspects of it. Sludge is another great example. $4.5 million in 2019, and 5 years later we're at $15 million. That escalation curve is one of the biggest that we have across any of the parameters that we're looking at. That is very impactful, and that's what's driving so much work that we're focused on, that Kalamazoo Sustainable Sludge Alternative, or Sustainable Biosolids Alternative. We have, through our good governance team, kind of worked to select down to one technology. That technology isn't, that's a broad technology. That's not an off-the-shelf, I want that one. So there's still work to be done yet. We have submitted an intent to apply to EGLE to apply for FY 26 funding dollars for that Kalamazoo Sustainable Biosolids Alternative. So you'll be seeing some more action, some more things coming forward to the City Commission as we really start to accelerate that process. There's some more work, some more engagement that we need to do with our partners. There's some engagement we need to do with our neighbors, our Northside Association of Cultural Development, our Northside Neighborhood Association really needs to be at the table to understand, what process we're proposing next for the future of the treatment plant. One that focuses above all else on odor reduction and on sustainability, on reduced carbon footprint, and reduced emissions above all else before anything. So there's that engagement yet to come. And then part of that submittal process for Eagle, as we engage in that funding program, there's community engagement that would happen as well. So there'll be a lot more opportunity to talk and engage on these subjects of solutions into the future.
Yeah, just to kind of speak on that a little bit. So effectively what you're talking about is that when all the waste goes down the pipes, that you extract the particles and the solid waste from the water, and then effectively that wet material is then plunked and put on trucks and then shipped away to other places. And so the genius of what you and your team are trying to do is recognizing that there's a lot of wasted dollars that's shipped away by just water, basically. And so the creative solutions you're trying to come up with is try to figure out more ways to not only eliminate the odor that's caused by wet material, but also to wring out all the water so that it's lighter, so that when you're shipping it, it's ideally cheaper. So you could potentially save people millions of dollars in the long run by just coming up with a creative solution. So is that kind of a good summary of?
Yeah, very well put, very well put. I think just, to summarize, we're currently handling, managing, transporting, and disposing a wet product. It's 25% dry, 75% wet. So there's technology available on the market that can get us to flip that ratio and be on the complete other side of that, to where we're handling, managing, transporting, and disposing of something that's dry, inert, and 95% solid. And 5% or less dry, that could have some other alternative uses. Could be used in cement kiln manufacturing, could be used as an absorbent, could be used as landfill cover. So used in a different way, even if it's still landfill.
A couple of the other creative solutions I've seen you and your team do as well is, I know at one point there was a shortage of material, which then, potentially the cost could go up through the roof if you end up having major delays in getting material, or it's costing millions of dollars on projects by just sitting idle. And so I know you, like water main product, that you tried to purchase a number of those in advance to try to take advantage of lower prices, but also make sure you have the material on hand to keep projects on target. Another thing I've noticed as well is that, in the community, a lot of the reason that the projects are taking so long is because you're not just, resurfacing a road anymore. You're digging up all the guts underneath and making sure that we're just inconveniencing people one time, not when the water main break happens, not once, we redo the road and then decide we have funds available to redo infrastructure underneath. And so, those aren't things that people maybe immediately see, but I just wanted to identify and recognize that I appreciate that kind of thoughtfulness and proactive thought that's going to, hopefully save us both grief as a community, but also, money in the long run as well, because, it is a really tough pill to swallow when you see these rate increases year after year. But at least knowing that, that there's vision on what strategies we're taking to try to make good use of those dollars is really helpful for me to see that.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much.
Just one last question for you as well. So when people see the things like the PFAS and the lead, how much is that us responding, and how much of that is us trying to be as proactive as possible to stay ahead of those challenges? So I'm talking about lead pipe removal, and EPA requirements about appropriate lead levels, but also PFAS is becoming a big thing in our community as well, because of some of the legacy contamination because of like PFAS chemicals or forever chemicals in the water.
No, that's a great question. I think there's certainly a yes and response to that. First and foremost, nobody wants us to sit back and wait until we become the next lead action community. That's not at all what we're proposing. We've never taken that approach, and I don't anticipate that we ever will. If we look back to the leadership and the guidance that the City Commission provided back in 2017 to get us going on an accelerated pace with lead service line replacement, that has made an impact. That has made a huge impact, and that has poised us ideally to be able to execute and accomplish what we just found out under the announcement that the EPA is now requiring a 10-year replacement window. So, we want to be on the proactive side of that. There are other aspects of those programs that are more in terms of preparation and treatment, things like our optimized corrosion control program that are moving us towards creating a more reliable, more precise system of water treatment and water quality as it leaves the station. So that's going to help to reduce the average lead levels in the community. And there's things too, like just working with our community, educating homeowners on the use of filters and having programs out there and available. That all being said, there's also some hard limits, we call them MCLs, that the EPA has proposed for PFAS in the future that we want to make sure we're prepared for. We talked about Station 5 and we talked about Station 14. A lot of our work is to making sure that we can utilize those stations in the future with the utmost reliability and confidence in the station to perform. We don't want to invest in a station and have a brand new station that we have to reduce flow, blend, or limit flow from one or more wells because we're trying to achieve or be below a certain MCL. We want to make sure that we can run that station to its full hydraulic range and have a order of confidence that we're below any MCL, including future MCL as well.
Thank you so much, Director Baker. Yes, please, Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the summary of the presentation. I have a question in reference to all of the investments that we're doing in both water departments. We often get comments or calls around water quality. With these investments, can our residents and customers see a difference in the water color? And we've been told it's safe, but to see brown water, it's yucky. And so will some of these investments affect that level of quality of the water?
Yes, most certainly. This is one of those topics, like many water and wastewater topics, is there's not a simple answer and there's not a binary yes or no answer that yes, it's going to fix everything, and it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So, water quality or aesthetic water quality concerns can be from all sorts of different, reasons, including high iron, which we have. So there's a lot of work that we've got in play that's starting to happen to bring iron treatment to the stations, like we talked about 5 and 14. So that's going to be some immediate results. So where we didn't have iron treatment, now we do have iron treatment. And then with that benefit is the ability to then, if we're able to utilize that station with the full hydraulic range, we're able to base load that station because we've got the full confidence that we're not going to pull any PFAS plume, or we're not going to be over any PFAS level. We can then take that water and we can boost it out to other districts to help with that. Well replacements also help to reduce that. So, it's not one of the projects that made the front page of the presentation, but, we will be working in the very near future at some stations that have some historically high iron amounts to replace wells to try to get after some lower iron, higher quality water. In time, as we work through our station consolidation plan, we've got a link to that in some of our previous examples, and you can find it online. It is a goal of ours to reduce the number of overall stations, have less stations, and provide a better span of control on that water quality as it leaves those stations. Also, that service line has a very big impact. We've talked to customers that have had galvanized service lines and that have experienced a service line replacement. and have noticed a night and day difference in water quality. So, if you do have a galvanized service line, and I know there's a lot of folks that have that, we will replace that as part of our lead program that by definition qualifies, and that is some of the work that we are doing, and that can have a very real, very immediate impact. Another challenge is that as we're doing all this construction, we're shutting valves and we're opening up main and flushing main, that can stir up the system, which can have a bit of an adverse effect to acidic water quality. So some of this, as we do the more work, we're continuing to create that problem. But that's a transient problem, and we'll get through with that. So another big benefit, we did it in Millwood, the pipelining. We've got a pretty large project. We're doing all of Millwood this year, where we're lining pipe, taking old cast iron main, and we're going to line it on the inside with a cast in place pipe inside of a pipe. And so any tuberculation or iron that was coming from that old cast iron main is going to be completely protected. So we had some very positive results from Millwood from that project, and that's going to be happening in Millwood too. So the answer is yes, but it's project dependent, and it is happening all throughout the system.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good question. Other questions for Dr. Baker? Yes, Vice Mayor Hess.
Sure. Professor Baker, thank you for this. I appreciate the class. A few things. First of all, I ask about this a lot, and it's about the monthly billing. And so we talk about how much per month. Well, folks get their bills every 3 months, right? Every quarter. And so it's 3 times what we've stated here, and it's a shock for a lot of people. Can you talk a little bit about that? We do talk about the smart meters going in and in the next few years, and then just really talk about the perception of it's going to be $5 a month, and then it's really not.
Yeah, no, thank you. And first and foremost, we acknowledge that as a system our size that still bills quarterly can be a burden to some families who are not always planning for that bill to come in. So, we will say, as we communicate to folks, we try, to break it down to a point of understanding, and oftentimes we choose, to communicate based on a monthly basis, because we know what monthly incomes are. We can compare that from a water affordability perspective. So the industry, we've kind of grown accustomed to, talking about this stuff as a monthly comparison and a monthly basis. There's still some work needed on our back end in terms of how we process bills and how we bring in the reads, and we process those, and we get all the invoices out. I spoke about it at the last presentation that we've got, over 22 cycles. So we're actually reading meters, we're bringing that information in, we're processing that, we're sending bills out, not just 4 times a year, every single day. So we're going to have to create some bigger zones, and we're going to have to manage those zones to be able to manage the stuff in-house without having to add a whole lot of people to be able to process that. So that's kind of the first step. The next step is that with smart meters, we have the ability to get, essentially more reads without actually having to push people out in the street to get those. We've got about 7,500 smart meters in our system right now of about 46,000. So we've got some work to go yet on that. We'd like to get well over halfway before we're really in a position to start transitioning some of these areas over to monthly. That is definitely one of our goals and priorities. We've been increasing the amount of smart meters. In fact, your last commission meeting, you approved a change order to Ferguson, our meter supplier, for us to buy more smart meters, and we've increased the line item budget for the purchase of smart meters. So we're doing that work. We're focused on that work. It's just going to take us some more time to work through it until we hit kind of that critical mass to where we're able to start to transition over and start to offer that as an option.
Okay, thank you. And just as a side note, the community action flyers that were here, you're going to make those available to all kinds of folks, and put it on bills and all of that kind of thing.
That's correct, yep.
Okay, so next, legendary basketball coach John Wooden said, when asked, how's your team going to be this year? He said, ask me in 20 years. So, how's the water going to be this year? Don't know, but ask me in 20 years. What in 20 years is going to be the value of this investment now that we're making in lead lines and decrease in water main breaks with new water main? Can you just talk about what we're going to expect in the future, in the next 20 years? So what has this commission done now that's going to help future Kalamazoo and help us become a more resilient and quality kind of community?
Yeah, these are great questions. I'm summoning behind me our, great city planners, past, present, and future, who always helped us work through, some similar exercises. I recall something about imagine Kalamazoo 2025, imagine Kalamazoo 2035, and so this fits in with it. And so if you look at 2037 as a date, or 2040 as a date of where we want to be. Obviously it's no lead service at all in the city of Kalamazoo. We talked about, what is our goal? That number is 10,000. If we hit 10,000, we can say no lead services in Kalamazoo. At the end of 2027, we'll be 76% of the way there. So we're well on our way there to that goal. I would say that the community is certainly demanding levels of service in terms of PFAS, where they don't want to see a number. We keep going through this process of, we have a detection limit, we've got science to be able to test us down to that limit, then the limit drops to that detectable range, science discovers a new detectable range, the limit drops to that new detectable range. So what we're seeing in the industry is that until we can come forward and say the level of PFAS, the 7 different parameters or the 12 different parameters is 0, it's not acceptable. So that's another point that we'll have to work, towards that. We talk about reliability as a system. It's no major water main breaks that, close traffic for, more than 3 days or impact large groups of people on our major streets. I think that's certainly a goal that we want to get to. When I first started as an interim director, I got to experience a catastrophic main break on Gull Road in Borges Hospital. You heard it, hospital without water, zero water pressure, 0 water in a hospital because of a catastrophic main break. I'd like to be a director in a community that doesn't have that challenge.
Thank you.
I've got some more if you want.
Do go on.
Well, we'll just say overall system reliability, so that when we have a thunderstorm, when we have precipitation, when we have an ice storm, we have full faith and confidence that our water system is going to power through it. And so that we need reliability at every station, every pump station, every tower. It's just like anything, whether it's a car, a dishwasher, a sump pump, or a water system that serves 190,000 people, every piece of it, every part of it has got to work, and there's got to be a backup. There's got to be a backup for the backup, and we've got to meet every single regulation, and we've got to make sure that we're providing clean, safe drinking water every single day. We don't get a holiday.
No, you don't. And I for one, appreciate that. And looking also then at the business climate and attracting businesses and families and people that we want to come to Kalamazoo. I think quality of the water system might be a major factor in that. So keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Other questions for Director Baker? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Long time at the podium there, my friend. No more questions. Is there anyone here in the audience that'd like to comment on this item? It's a regular agenda item H1. If so, please come to the podium, state your name and whether you live in the city. Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor Hess. Further discussion, Commission? Seeing none, Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney. Yes. Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next, reports and legislation. City Manager Ritzma.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. And I just want to publicly acknowledge the work of one of our esteemed colleagues at the City of Kalamazoo, our Deputy City Manager, Jeff Chamberlain. This will be his last City Commission meeting, as he will be retiring at the end of the week. And I just want to publicly thank him for a job well done. And we made comments earlier about how reliable and steady he is, and empathetic as well. And that served him well, served the city well in dealing with some difficult situations and difficult people. But job well done, Jeff, and a retirement well deserved. Thank you. That's all, Your Honor.
Is there a recognition time frame that you want to mention as well?
Oh, yeah, tomorrow there will be an open house here.
Wednesday?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Wednesday. I believe from 1 to 3 with comments at 2. So that'll be here in the community room.
Okay, super. Thank you. Next is the opportunity for commissioner comments. Are there any commissioners who would like to make comments this evening? Commissioner Decker, you're great. You always jump in, because we're all looking at each other and somebody's got to go.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. I just want to say that, it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with DCM Chamberlain, and I know he's not going to leave us completely. We still may see him around the halls continually, maybe to do some of the great work that he still does and inspiring us. And I want to say it's been a pleasure to work with you over these past 2 commissions. Enjoy your retirement and hope to see you around.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Other comments, commissioners? Commissioner Cooney.
I just want to say that Mr. Chamberlain has the essential quality that a city servant has to have, and that is kindness. And I thank you for the kindness that you have shown to people for all these years.
Other comments, commissioners? Commissioner Pradle.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to echo as well, colleagues here talking about Jeff, but I worked with Jeff even before coming here on the commission, but a couple of things that kind of stick out to me about Jeff. I don't think I've ever seen Jeff raise his voice. He has the most even-keeled personality, which in municipal government is quite impressive. You don't let things rattle you, and you just have a calmness about you, which is exactly what you want in a person when you feel like times are getting tough or a situation is challenging. Second thing I just really appreciate about you is, when there's something that's I would describe as minutia but very important, you're the person that I always want to call, because I know you'll always take the call. I know you're always very thorough. And I know you'll take me seriously, even if it just seems like a minor thing, maybe to you, but it is, to me, a big thing. So I really appreciate the fact that you are always quick to answer that call, especially if it's something that's maybe not something that you would put on the front page of the paper, rise to that level of importance. And then the last thing I just want to mention as well is just, I think you are a great example of somebody as well, if somebody's aspiring to make a difference in municipal government, of, how you've grown here within the organization and made an impact as well. And there's a lot of people who might want to look to get in somewhere or are currently working in the city, and you kind of definitely exemplify that and that ability. So thank you for all your service and work as well. I also want to just take a moment to just mention that we had the official fiscal year 2025 budget transmitted to us as City Commission. You can now access that, also the draft or proposed budget, on the city's website at kalamazooCity.org/budget. Just wanted to make sure to thank our team that works tirelessly around the clock in preparation to make this budget transmission happen. Steve Asenzi and your team, please make sure to pass along our sincere thanks. I know there's probably a lot of very late nights, stressful days to get to this point. And again, it just goes unseen to us, but just know that we recognize that and see that sacrifice that you and your team make to make all that possible and prepare for us to start working on that with the public. But it's a great time for folks if you want to start exploring that work as well and look into it a little bit deeper as well. So I would encourage the public to do that as well as we're along on that process as well. Last thing is my oldest son, Lincoln, turns 10 this week. So I just wanted to make sure to wish him a very happy birthday as well. That's all.
Happy birthday, Lincoln. Vice Mayor Hess.
Was he named after Abraham?
Yes.
A few things here. I have the opportunity, and I and Commissioner Cooney normally attend a monthly meeting with unhoused providers here in the city, and it's convened by our public safety community service team. And I've learned a lot. I've learned that we have so many caring people that are working with and for our unhoused community, and they're working together for the greater good of all. This is hard work, and we support it as a city with so many folks helping each other. And that the colder weather is coming. One of the things that I learned around that table last week was that warming centers are happening. Warming center planning is beginning for the colder months by Griffin and the community, the Continuum of Care folks. And then also at that time last week, there were 2 spaces still left in the family shelter at the Kalamazoo Gospel Ministries. So that's information that I would want to share about the unhoused community, and that we do deeply, deeply care about those who are unhoused. Commissioner Decker and I had the good fortune last week to meet with Brownie Troop 80167. Hello, if you're out there watching. That they were learning and working on their government badge. We were able to bring them into these chambers. These are 9 and 10-year-olds. They were able to sit up here and actually use the gavel, Mayor Anderson, which you don't use. They used it quite forcefully, and we might have some future commissioners on our hands. But thank you to Brownie Troop 80167 for making the trip to City Hall and allowing Commissioner Decker and myself to just be among the joy of being a Brownie again. I had the good fortune to attend the Kalamazoo Central musical. It's Chicago, the teen edition, and it was wonderful. And I want to read something from a book that a good friend wrote. It says, a play is said to be successful when the audience is able to suspend belief, or when the players and audience step outside themselves and exercise the imagination to see beyond their everyday world and entertain a different reality. They did that for us. They did that for everybody in that audience this night, and for all of the performances that they did. So good work to our young people at Kalamazoo Central, and kudos. Speaking of young people, Girls on the Run needs coaches. Girls on the Run is a wonderful program that goes from March through May, and they need just volunteers. You don't have to run with them. You just have to be a coach. You have to care about young girls. grades 3 through 5 in the Girls on the Run area. So Girls on the Run needs coaches. Google up Girls on the Run and go ahead and volunteer or donate. And lastly, the book that I read from is by my friend, my dear friend, Al Gemrich. Al passed in September, late September of this year. He was a Kalamazoo College alum. He was a friend, and he was a Kalamazoo College, received his Juris Doctor from Yale University and Master's from Western Michigan University, and he practiced more than 59 years as an attorney here in the Kalamazoo area. In his life, he planted over 50,000 trees. And he also was known for his wisdom and kindness by so many. And this book that I just read from is called Christmas Letters and Poems from the Farm. And he received this book 5 days before passing. It is truly his life's work, and I would highly recommend it to anyone, by Alfred J. Gemrich, and may he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to say that this yesterday, I had the opportunity to be a judge for the Miss Greater Kalamazoo, Calhoun County Scholarship Competition, beauty pageant. So we now have a new Miss Greater Kalamazoo for 2024, which is now eligible to run for Miss Michigan. The experience was phenomenal. That was never on my bucket list. And yet I learned so much. And these are young women who are powerful and walking in their true selves, and they're authentic, and the ability for them to have the courage and the confidence to be in that scholarship contest was just amazing to me. So I want to let everybody know that we do have a Miss Greater Kalamazoo now. Also, I wanted to acknowledge the young men who spoke at public comment. I appreciate your candor, your courage, and I heard you, and I see you, and thank you for taking the time to speak publicly to our youth in our community who are suffering. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. One thing I just want to recognize first, and I think I probably said something along these lines before, but it is always astounding to me, especially when we come here together, but not just then, all the various events, community events, interactions with people in the community that occur across the whole breadth of the commission here. And nobody really sits down and makes everyone's schedule for the week and says, are you going to do this, you're going to do that, who's going to this? Somehow it just seems to more or less work that there's all kinds of engagement that happens from this commission with the community. And that is a part of the job which is, you don't see it just in the few moments that people are up here, but I just want to thank all of you. It is great to work with you, and then I get to come up here and hear what all the things you've been doing for the past week and ways you've engaged with the community. I think that is so important. For us here, this is pretty darn close to a volunteer job, and I just want to say it's an honor to serve with everybody. I will add to that list now a little bit myself, a couple of things I had the opportunity to participate in. Great organization, El Concilio, had their gala fundraising award ceremony just this past weekend. It was packed. It was over at the Radisson. Certainly recognize their brand new building and all the great work they're doing. And just as I got to sit next to somebody who I had only heard his voice on the radio before, but it's Mike, is the person who does the music show on WNUK, 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoons. And so he's been doing that for, I think, 40 plus years. You might know him already? From Western. That's correct, from Western, yes. Retired now, but still comes back and does that show. Great to sit next to him. For me, it's like sitting next to a walking encyclopedia. I left there much more informed on many, many things from over, last many, many decades in Kalamazoo. Great organization, doing great work. It was just a great honor to be there. Interestingly enough, they did recognize one of their awardees was a business entity, and who they recognized, and guess who that was? Santiago Services, which we often see on our agendas because we hire Santiago Services to do many things for the city of Kalamazoo, which is a competitive bidding process, but they were recognized for their success. One thing that I got to do today, which I just can't tell you how important it is, and it's just another one of this theme of people doing all kinds of things, of their own volition, of their own aspiration, their own desire that this be a great community, is I got to meet with Chris Pompey, which people will remember as a former director of Urban Alliance, who's now moved on and has an organization called Reach Sober Living, and was opening of a 10-bedroom sober living house over on Westnedge. Beautiful, by the way. And Chris, who has experience himself, is very, very clear about the program that they are providing, which is a way to help support people's recovery efforts and how important that is. I cannot tell you how many people who may not be housed here in Kalamazoo do grapple with the horror of an addiction and the limitation that is to leading a fully human life, as you often talk about, Commissioner Cooney, and the issues related to that. We have a brand new treatment called, Enlightened Recovery Center in town here, right over here in Alamo is the first one. You go there for 30 days, and then what are your options after that? Something like a year-long stay in one of the Reach Sober houses that continues that support. Great, great option here. So Reach Sober is doing great work. They're also working on building apartments so that those will be available to people also with that careful, supportive recovery approach to people's lives. Really impressed by the work they're doing. Just a little comment on, whether people can still provide any questions, concerns, comments on things to the City Commission or related to the agenda, which is published well in advance of the meeting. I just want to remind people, if you do have concerns that you want to get to the City Commission, there's a variety of ways still. You can email. We all get emails from people in the community on a variety of topics. You can go old-fashioned. You can send a letter. You don't have to make a copy for everybody. You can send it right to the city manager's office. You can ask for it to be copied to everybody here at the City Commission. You could actually call 311, which is a simple call, and you could say to that person, here's something I'm concerned about. Please make sure this is shared with all the commissioners. All those are ways that are still available to communicate. In addition, there is a public comment period, which, thanks to Commissioner Decker's motion, has been extended to 4 minutes, and that is in advance of our consent agenda. So there is no reason why anyone who doesn't come can't use a portion or all of that time to comment on any consent agenda item they choose to comment on in advance of the consent agenda. Just want to remind people that those options are still available. And although it seems like Halloween just happened, we have the holiday parade. It's coming up Saturday. I know commissioners are going to be participating in that. It's a great event for downtown Kalamazoo, and I invite the entire community to come down, enjoy it, young and old, particularly young, and make the most out of that fantastic event here in downtown Kalamazoo. I love you, Kalamazoo. We're adjourned.